My name is Riaz. I'm the founder and CEO at Kruger. What we do is we make sure everybody in the world can write code right. We train people to become full-time code reviewers, a new career path where you would specialize in making sure that code is high quality, maintainable, scalable, and accurate.
My name is Amia. I head up the reviewer sourcing and management team. Being a code reviewer is like being an editor for code. Just like for natural languages like English and French, you have editors and copywriters who understand the technicalities of the language and the importance of quality for programming languages.
As a code reviewer, you're looking at other developers' code and trying to help them improve a number of different aspects of their code.
As a code reviewer, you have to check whether that code is according to standards and conventions and if it's the most efficient way of doing something, because writing code is just beyond having something that is working.
A good code reviewer must have a passion for coding, be a very good communicator and pay attention to detail.
So working at Kruger, you work alongside the best in tech talent in South Africa. You work in collaboration with a growing team of like-minded individuals. And as a team, we like to have fun. So you'll be joining a team that enjoys their game nights and their evenings out.
Come and do something better, something more impactful for Africa and for South Africans too.
Hi everyone, welcome to our virtual career day. My name is Nico Kruger. I'm the head of education here at Hyperion Dev. I'll be hosting this event with some of our other team members. I trust you're going to find all this information that we're going to share with you very enriching, and I look forward to answering some of the questions that you've got at the end of the session. Before we get going, let's quickly have a look at the order of events. So I'll be going through some lessons from COVID-19. From there, I'll be handing over to my colleague Sobane. He will be taking you through our fireside chats. We'll chat to two of our code reviewers, followed by a chat with one of our mentors. And then we'll end off the session with a Q&A, to answer all those burning questions from your side. Okay, let's get started. I want to start us off with a quote. So in 1963, John F. Kennedy said, "Change is law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future." So change is inevitable. It's part of life. What we experience with COVID-19 is a massive global event of accelerated change. It came quickly, and the fact is that we weren't ready. I heard someone say that COVID-19 has been the largest worldwide event since World War II. And this really put things into perspective for me. After all, the Second World War fundamentally changed almost everything about the world that preceded it. And since the start of the outbreak in late 2019, international travel, business, society, and even personal interactions and cultural practices have been upended. Even though there aren't planes in the sky dropping bombs on us, it would be short-sighted to think that the new normal does not represent the most significant derailing of human life since the invasion of Poland on 1 September 1939. This event has challenged us as a global people. It's changed us as a global people. Our economies have been hit hard. People have lost their jobs. And in some instances, life has been lost. But with this new global challenge comes opportunity. An opportunity for us, for you, to stand up, adapt, and move forward. We need to make sure we learn from the past, plan and act in the present, and be ready for the future. So let's dive into the lessons from COVID-19. Coding, technology, and the internet are more important than ever. We have seen the demand for coding increase. Companies that had large physical footprints had to pivot and move their workforce online. Technologies that were used somewhat in the past have suddenly become essential to business. Good examples here would be the use of online conferencing software. There was almost a second internet boom, if I can say it like that. Yes, we used the internet a lot, before COVID, but now it was also implemented in areas that were traditionally a physical engagement. Our meetings, our basic work conversations, in personal life, conversations with your friends, this suddenly moved online. Well, some of you do WhatsApp, so I guess it's in a way, it was already there somewhat. It suddenly became a digital exercise mostly. People are increasingly aware of risk and are planning and preparing around that. Our response to the effects of COVID-19 have been nothing short of amazing, but we have learned some hard lessons. Companies and people are looking at mitigating risk should something like COVID come along again. Companies are changing how they operate and do business, and people are making sure that they get the skills required in the new world, and may even decide to change their career completely, maybe to a career that's more future-proof. There's been a fundamental shift in critical skills in the workplace. The need for relevant hard skills that future-proof companies and allow them to operate in this brave new world has awoken the need for these skills in the marketplace. And it's also provided an opportunity for people to upskill themselves in order to fill these gaps. With all these new pressures, the need for crucial soft skills like emotional intelligence and creativity have also become important, especially in a world where remote working has become a reality. These are tough times for business, so they need to adapt or die. We've all seen the impact on businesses across the world. Industries were crippled, big, strong businesses closed down, hundreds of thousands of lost jobs globally. We are truly in a time where people and business have to adapt. There is no alternative. We have to change with the times. A strong digital presence is just as crucial as for job seekers as it is for companies. Businesses have to move quickly to ensure that they maintain or start up a digital presence, to be relevant and competitive, or just to keep their doors open. The same is relevant for job seekers. A digital presence is a must in order to be in the running in the job market. Most employers, especially those in tech, will rely on your digital resume and online presence when evaluating you for a role. At Hyperion Dev, one of the ways we make our graduates career ready is to build a professional brand for yourself online. You must have a professional and job relevant digital presence in order to form your digital profile, and especially a GitHub portfolio for people working in tech. So let's start off and look a little bit closer at the information and communication technologies in this age. What is happening there? So with the rapid online migration of businesses we're experiencing, software and web services are more crucial than ever before, especially for the economy. As an inevitable consequence, coding itself has become a highly sought after skill, with the demand of programmers skyrocketing. For us, as not just an online education provider, but a coding education provider, this has resulted in greater interest from people from all walks of life who are now looking to learn software development skills. We have seen students from various other sectors pivot and look at the possibility of rather going into a tech direction in order to ensure that they change with the times. There's no better time to learn how to code, and there's no better time to be part of an edtech or virtual learning company. But risk awareness is key. With many once giant industries being crippled by the lockdown, people are considering their career paths and the future more carefully. For example, travel, tourism, and the hospitality industries were cornerstones of our economy. Today, there's shadows hanging on by the fingertips, waiting for international travel to return. People are learning some important lessons from COVID-19. In their career development, they're figuring out which career will offer them real job security and growth into the future. In the back of their minds, there's one ever-present question. What will happen to me and my career if another pandemic or disaster were to come along? I think it's vital that people entering the job market ask themselves this. I'm not saying one should not go into industries that have been severely affected by COVID-19, but one should know the risks and be able to adapt should we face another situation like this in the future. Against this backdrop, and also keeping in mind the safety risk of going back to offices, the appeal of remote work and remote-only opportunities has also skyrocketed. Within our education department, we have seen a 5-fold increase in the number of people applying for our code reviewer roles, which are fully remote. Under the brand of Codegrammer, we work with several US and UK-based edtech companies, where we technically assess and provide helpful feedback to their students on the quality of their code. For these positions, we look to sign contracts with technically skilled people who can review a variety of code ranging from Python, JavaScript, more advanced data science concepts, etc. The work can be done on a freelance or part-time basis at different times of the day, including late nights when some of the code reviews have technical calls with their US-based students. In a sense, securing a remote opportunity is quite a good way not to edge the risk of the uncertain job market right now, but also gain very relevant experience in the world that's valuing tech skills and tech experience more and more. Make sure that you develop skills that future-proof industries want and shift your career path to work with or in these industries. So when we're looking at the new critical skills, according to sources like Indeed, the Indeed hiring platform, which published a top hard skills article in August of 2020, and the Global Knowledge website, which is an IT training partner for the likes of AWS, Cisco, and IBM. They also published in August this year. The most wanted hard skills are cybersecurity, cloud computing, data analytics and data science, mobile app development, software development and programming, AI and machine learning, sales, leadership, people management, project and IT service management, video production and translation, which is great because we as a company are involved in several of these areas. When it comes to soft skills, LinkedIn indicated in January of this year that the most wanted soft skills are creativity, collaboration, persuasion, and emotional intelligence. All skills that demonstrate how we work with others and bring new ideas to the table. We've seen a significant increase in people approaching us because they want to get more employable skills. The lesson is clear here. People are adapting and want to gear up for the new world we live in. Another big thing we are seeing are people that are open to online offerings aimed to improve their skills. And it's not just us. In a recent survey, 2U found that 73% of the respondents said that the COVID-19 pandemic has made them more likely to consider online programs. And 20% of respondents said that before COVID-19, they would have never considered online programs. This is great for EdTech, and we are definitely at a turning point when it comes to education. Education is in a way, and the way we learn is going to change, and all of us need to be open to this change. There are some real exciting things happening with companies like Google talking about 6-month certifications that will be the equivalent to a 4-year degree. But I'm not going to get into that now. That's a whole big discussion on its own. I'm going to now focus on businesses and why they need to adapt or die. As lockdown forced businesses to cease physical brick and mortar activity, it was clear that businesses needed to adapt or die. We were hit hard by the lockdown, social distancing, wearing masks, slowdown of international travel and logistics, reduced economic activity, large sectors of the economy shutting down. Digital storefronts and online services, functional and reliable websites, remote work, online advertising are now mandatory tools for survival. In this new business environment, trained tech professionals, ICT resources, and digital skills development in the workforce are non-negotiables. Business should focus more on removing barriers between their services and their customers' wallets, and this means one thing: tech education. For many businesses that were more traditional or had processes that weren't set up to be remote, it's been tough. What we hear from friends, family, and some of our employees, is that Work has brought its own challenges for these people. Infrastructure needed, where infrastructure needed to be changed, where people had to move to remote, or, processes and workflows needed to change. And some, traditional managers had, find it really difficult to move people to a remote situation because they like to micromanage. All of these things were quite a difficult time for these types of companies. A digital presence is absolutely critical. So if we look at the digital presence on the next slide, a strong digital presence is a non-negotiable. And this applies to both businesses and job seekers. With the lockdown and the ending of non-essential business, industries of all kinds leapt at any available way to keep their businesses open. Remote work, video calls, digital services, all of these things which had been put on hold or called ineffective for years before, suddenly became the heart of the business. This digital transformation is clear to see. Internet use surged with massive increases in traffic. At one point, the world's largest streaming platforms deliberately started throttling the quality of their video calls and services to help the internet infrastructure cope with the dramatic increase in usage. Zoom became a household name almost overnight, and a gold rush that was so fast-paced that the share price of a lesser-known company called Zoom Technologies, not Zoom that you guys know, rocketed up by over 1,800%, which is crazy. Ultimately, businesses need a digital presence to remain competitive. If you are not online, then you probably took a big hit during the lockdown. The reality is that you must have a digital presence by now. So if your business is still running, make sure that you're active in that digital sphere. With this moving online thinking, job seekers also need a digital presence to stand out as an applicant when they have a job application in the running. They need to be able to clearly and openly demonstrate their talent and track record of achievements. So what advice do I have for job seekers? A strong digital presence is a non-negotiable. Ensure you have put a digital resume together, build a professional brand for yourself using online platforms. As an article I was reading puts it, as many as 77% of people you talk to are going to Google you to find out more information. And you need to make sure that your personal brand reflects who you say you are and not what others say you are. On your LinkedIn profile, add a professional profile pic and add a headline, software engineer or aspiring web developer, which appears next to your name in each of the search results and provides the most relevant info about your experience and background in a single glance. Add your skills to your LinkedIn profile and ask your previous managers and colleagues, even teachers or academic project partners, specifically for those who don't have a lot of work experience, to leave recommendations that recruiters can consider as informal references. Establish your technical and professional profile so you control what happens in the search results of your name. Build and maintain your professional network. As a job seeker, building and maintaining your professional network is super important. Find and reconnect with your old colleagues and make sure that you kind of join groups, make sure that you're on LinkedIn, get out there and make sure that you build your professional network. Be prepared to work remotely. Set yourself up to work at home. Make sure you can be productive. Set up a proper workplace. Make sure that there are no distractions and invest in a strong internet connection. And I think this is key for working remotely. Oh yes, and of course, purchase a UPS so that you can go on if you hit by a power outage or load shedding. So we need to keep on adapting. So what did we do at Hyperion Dev to deal with COVID? This is a time when it becomes clear to see which companies are truly agile and set up to be remote first in this new future of work. We moved in an agile, decisive manner by implementing fast decision-making to prioritize certain business OKRs. We worked with suppliers to bring down ops and overhead expenses, and And very importantly, and I think this is most important, we supported our employees. I'm very happy to share that the result here for our company was that we actually saw an increase in the levels of happiness, satisfaction, and work-life balance. This was reported by employees as part of our bi-weekly pulse surveys during the past 5 months, which have generally been stressful all around the world. I think that's a reflection of how quickly we were able to adapt as a business and support our employees in working remotely through a variety of measures, from assisting them with mobile data to virtual fitness sessions. We supported our employees throughout. Within education, we quickly planned out and implemented a move of our on-site campus operations to a digital platform. This was a whole new venture, though. So as we had to move on-site lectures and had to adapt support as students were used to having sessions in the physical environment. In the end, it was a huge success that the entire education division and the company are super proud of. I want to conclude my speech on the lessons from COVID-19 by saying, it's clear that for both employers and job seekers, we need to learn from the important lessons from COVID-19 to secure our future or go bust. At Hyperion Dev, we continue to adapt, whether or not there's a pandemic. For us, as an EdTech provider, the new normal of digital services, remote work, and huge demand for software technology systems have made coding skills more crucial than ever. Our specialized coding bootcamps teach people the skills they need to know when working in the tech industry in less than 6 months. They get one-on-one mentor support and expert code reviews, which all build to a career in the tech industry. And we're looking for talented people who care about accessible tech education and want to help people create better lives for themselves through rewarding tech careers. If you think you'd be a great fit in our homegrown startup that's making a global impact, please visit our careers page to see what opportunities await you at Hyperion Dev. I thank you, and I'm now going to hand over to Sobane, who's going to be talking about our fireside chat, taking us into our fireside chats. Sobane?
Thank you so much, Nico, for such a great and, very insightful message and quite rather in-depth. I mean, times have been tough over the past few months, but survival has been quite crucial. And I believe also, as you mentioned, there's also been quite a whole new scope of opportunities that have come about as a result of that. So I really do believe our people who are joining this now have been taking notes, especially the job seekers, just around the kind of advice that you've provided. So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sobane Motlomelo. I'm the Education Operations Manager at Hyperion Dev. So thank you for joining us here. I'm looking forward to chatting to you guys. And as Nico mentioned, we do have some of the key opportunities that we have in Hyperion Dev is either being a code mentor or a code reviewer. So just to talk a little bit about some distinction between the two, when you look at a code reviewer, really the main focus there, or the primary focus, is all about the quality, the quality of the code submissions that you as a code reviewer will be handling and working on as you provide the feedback, comprehensive feedback. So basically you do this from both an educational and technical perspective as you actually review these submissions for both co-grammar clients and as well as the Hyperion Dev students. Whereas being a code mentor, it's a lot more than just doing code reviews. You are actually involved in the day-to-day journey and path of the student as they move through the bootcamp. And what that means, it means you get to have regular one-on-one sessions with them. Literally on a daily basis, you engage with them through different student community platforms and engagement channels that we have. You are the one who actually understands their career, goals, their future plans, and you continuously playing a guidance and support role for the student as they move across. And speaking of co-grammar, just to highlight here as well, I think Nico also mentioned. So co-grammar is actually our brand, which provide code review as a service to some of the biggest, tech education institutions around the globe. Whereas with our parent dev, the primary offer here is intensive coding boot camps. So yeah, in our presence here, we have two of our code reviewers, George and Pierre, who will I'll be having a small chat with them as they tell us about their own experiences, having been code reviewers for some time now. So George and Pierre, welcome, and thank you guys for joining us today. How are you guys doing?
Well, thank you.
Hi, good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, great stuff. Yeah, so I actually, you guys have been doing code reviewing for some time now, so I would really like to chat to you guys about some of the ins and outs and your own experience so far. So let's just get right to it. Now, this is actually directed to both of you guys, but I would like to start with George. Can you just tell me, or tell us here, what do you do as a code reviewer?
Yeah, so I review the work, the code solutions that students submit for Hyperion Dev. So so they have tasks, and the tasks describe, they learn some sort of concept in computer science, and then they submit their own solution to the assignment. And I'm one of the markers that mark those solutions. They submit a wide variety of content, from simple pseudocode to Python to machine learning, web development, object orientation. It's all over the place. And I'm responsible for making sure that what they submit is up to industry standard as far as style, syntax, documentation, and efficiency is concerned.
Great. That sounds really exciting. Okay, great. So that was George, who's a parent dev code reviewer, and then Pierre. Can you tell us, what you do as a programmer code reviewer?
Okay, so as a programmer code reviewer, I work obviously with international edtech institutions, and what happens is on the project that I'm currently working on, we have what we call synchronous group assessments. So we are in a video call with a group of students, and that group of students is maybe presenting a milestone project that they've created. And as they are presenting it, there are obviously core learning requirements that are for that particular milestone. And as they are presenting it, I will get a feel for what parts of the project they understood well and what they didn't. And perhaps I'd come up with some questions on the fly just to probe a bit deeper on their understanding on things. Then after they've presented, I'll give them live feedback in the call as to what they could have improved on. And then also after all my calls are finished, then I'll do written reports or written reviews as well, which I share with the institution, which gets given to the students. And that obviously goes into a bit more depth in terms of code quality, efficiency, etc.
Great. Cool. Thank you so much for the answers, gents. As you can hear, pretty much there's a lot of similarity here, even though the focus areas are different and the clients are different. But the net result is the main thing is the quality. The quality, writing code right. So great stuff. So now this is to you both as well. But I would like to start with Pierre. Pierre, can you tell us what is it that you enjoy most about this kind of work?
Well, particularly working remotely is great because you're always at home with your family, which some might see as negative, but for me is a great positive. And of course, the not having to commute to and from work is also a positive. But I think most importantly as well is that I get to create my own schedule. So besides I'm more on a full-time kind of basis. So I do have a lot of calls in a day, but I do get to structure or dictate how many calls I can take. So I can work it around whatever other projects I'm busy with as I'm a freelancer, or I could also take on more work if I so wish to do. So I'm basically really in charge of my own schedule. And so long as I get my work submitted on time, I can work till 1 in the morning if I want, or I can finish early and start up in the morning. It's all up to me.
Nice, nice, awesome. No, that sounds really interesting and pretty flexible as well. So, I mean, speaking of flexibility, like you said, you have been able to play around the kind of hours you put in and so forth. So I think that's really exciting. And the fact that you're able to do that from literally everywhere, it's quite also interesting. So, George, on your side?
Yeah, I have to agree with Pierre there. The logistics of working for a programmer is just a dream, especially in this time. In my case, I just have like a batch of tasks that I have to mark, and I can choose how much I want to do. So if I want to do 20 on one day and 5 the next day, that's something that's allowed for me. And I can also, as long as I do it by the end of the day, I can mark them whenever. I can mark one task an hour, or I can mark them all in one series. And that's really fantastic for me, because I'm a third-year student at the University of Cape Town, which is online now. And for me, it's fantastic because I can balance this work with my studies, choose how many hours I want to work per day. And like when exam time comes, I can scale down the amount of work that I do. So logistically, this job is absolutely fantastic. And then for me, there's also the moral imperative, where I used to be a tutor at UCT, and there I really came to understand that students learn a lot better when they have another person explaining to them what's going on. It's not just static questions and answers. It's the empathy of another person explaining to you specifically in your situation how you can improve. And so I feel it's very great for me to be able to be part of that learning process for the students.
Amazing, amazing. It sounds like there's a whole lot of fulfillment that it's embedded within this role at Apparent Deaf as a code reviewer. Eh? Cool. No, thank you so much for that. Speaking of, you just mentioned here that you used to be a tutor at UCT, and you're currently also completing your, ComSci degree. Now, my next question to you is actually, is there any particular type of person that you think is best suited for this type of work, being a code reviewer at Apparent Dev?
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. By far, the most important aspect is having empathy and explanatory tact when it comes to marking. Yeah. You want to be able, because a lot of times your students submit work that isn't perfect. It's pretty, sometimes it's not great at all. But that's part of the learning process. You make mistakes, right? And as a reviewer or a tutor, you have to be empathetic, and you have to make sure that you give them constructive criticism that actually motivates them to fix their problems, not demotivate them because of their failings. So you definitely want to have that explanatory tact. And then skill-wise, I think the more the merrier. The content ranges drastically, like I mentioned, from Python to object orientation, web development, machine learning. What you definitely want is breadth over depth in computer science subjects. So the more content generally the better you'll be at being a code reviewer.
Awesome. No, great stuff. I mean, great stuff there. So just to touch on what you said a little bit, especially around the skill sets, with you being an actual ComSci student, do you really think one needs to have a computer science degree to actually do this kind of work?
Definitely not, no. And in fact, in general, I wouldn't say that a computer science degree is absolutely necessary to go into industry. What's important is that you can demonstrate that you do know the important skills. So you definitely, as Nico mentioned, you want those soft skills that help you in business. And as far as technical skills go, all you need to know is the stuff that you'll be reviewing. So if you know some Python and some Java, but you don't know anything about machine learning or web development, that's fine. Then you can do marking for those specific things. In computer science, they do teach you a lot of stuff, and I promise you that you don't need all of it to be doing all of the kind of jobs in tech, and definitely not the jobs here at IPRN.
Awesome, great stuff. Thank you so much for that insight, George. Moving back to you, Pierre. So, in your experience so far, how do you, as a code reviewer, what kind of difference do you feel you are making in the world of IT so far, just through being a code reviewer?
I would say that definitely molding students into coding in the correct way is one of the biggest impacts that we have in terms of code quality and working and writing, working with code and writing code that is the industry standard, if I can put it like that. We also impact students in a way in which we are kickstarting them or springboarding them with the correct habits to begin with, in terms of things like commenting code, things like working properly in a team environment. And also one of the things we also do is to give feedback on industry specific needs. So when somebody is working on a certain tech stack, we can give feedback to say that, okay, instead of using this framework, maybe you could have used this technique or this framework, because this is probably what is going to be used in the industry in which you want to work in. So we really are kickstarting learners to be industry ready. And also one of the other differences that we make is just also knowing that you are helping people understand tech in a way that makes them useful as citizens in their country, if I can put it like that. Useful citizens that are productive citizens.
100%. No, I totally agree. So basically, I'm sure it must be pretty fulfilling, because ideally both of you are literally part of the team that actually, helps builds the next generation of developers. You've mentioned, through different angles, which, as you guys perform your different duties. But yeah, it sounds like at the end of the day, it's all about that kind of impact that you are playing in not just the student journey, but in the entire overall expertise and skill set as a coder. So great, thank you so much, Pierre. And then, just a final question from my side, and this goes to you both actually. Just, again, based on your own experience, what piece of advice would you give to, our viewers tonight, especially those who are considering this kind of opportunity?
Who would you like to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. I'd say, like I mentioned, you definitely want to get a breadth over depth when it comes to your technical skills. So get yourself a GitHub profile and make sure that you have projects there from multiple languages. Pick 3 or 4, and if you don't know them yet, learn them. If you do, create some project, something that just proves that you understand how it works on a good enough level. And this proves, because this is the kind of person that I think Hyperion Dev wants for their market. They want like a jack of all trades, someone that's just going to be very lax. It's just going to be able to figure out concepts or that just know like a nice variety of comp sci components, just so that they don't have to worry about whether this marker is going to be able to handle a certain kind of task. So to get that edge over the other people that are applying, you definitely want to have breadth over depth.
Great. So breadth over depth. Awesome. Thank you for that advice, George. And then Pierre, any final advice, piece of work you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think everything that George says, I'd just like to echo that as well. Just also trying to stay abreast, not going deep into certain frameworks, but also just staying abreast on what is current and what are the latest technologies and frameworks within certain languages is also of benefit. Not that you have to know them in depth, but you'll find that, especially in the code reviews that I do, some learners will be using frameworks that perhaps you've never seen before, or libraries that you've never seen before. So just kind of having a general knowledge of what is happening in the industry and where the industries are moving forward. And of course, knowing more than one language to a certain degree, and obviously the fundamentals of programming is definitely beneficial. I mean, I've done code review on Java for Java students and the Spring framework. I've done code reviews for Python, I've done code reviews for JavaScript, React Native, React, Electron.js. So just to have a sort of broad knowledge, but like he says, breadth over depth.
Nice, 100%. Okay, great stuff. No, thank you so much, gentlemen. That was quite insightful. And just to wrap up, so ideally, I believe, as you both mentioned, the learning never stops, right? And I think by virtue of you guys dealing with, multiple submissions over time, you end up also having no choice but to continuously upskill yourselves as you go. But yeah, to all our viewers out there, that was Pierre and George, who are currently our code reviewers and both programmer and parent dev. Thank you so much for your time today, guys. And you will get an opportunity to actually ask any burning questions at the end. We will have a Q&A session, so they will both stick around. Feel free to pop in your questions in the live chat as we move along. Thank you so much, gents.
All right, thanks for having us. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Great stuff. Cool. So that was it from our code reviewers. We will now be moving over to chat to Tavonga Chivamba, who's our Hyperion Dev mentor at the moment, and he will tell us a little bit more about what the role entails and share some of his experience so far. So Tavonga, thanks for joining us today and welcome. How are you today?
I'm all right, thank you, Sobane.
Great stuff. So yeah, so we're going to be talking about a little bit about what you do as a code mentor. But before we get to that, can you first tell me what actually attracted you to this opportunity?
That is a fantastic question, actually. So for me, I guess it was really the way that Hyperion Dev, made me aware of the opportunity and explicitly made it clear what they wanted. And at the time, that was really just someone who had some experience in code and, could teach and was also looking for, like a new opportunity to grow and learn.
Oh, great. Cool. So it was very clear from the get-go and you felt somehow it spoke to you in terms of, your own growth areas. Nice. Okay, great stuff. So tell me, what were you doing before? And, whatever it is you were doing, how do you feel it actually prepared you for this role?
So I was actually just completing my undergraduate degree for computer science, and I had just started to study towards my postgraduate degree honors. And that is when I became aware of the opportunity. And I guess for me, it was perfect because I had been immersed in that environment, in that perspective of a learner. I literally just stood in their shoes, and I know what it's like to be so new to something, and how desperately you need a good tutor or mentor, someone to guide you along. And I feel just having just recently come off of that, it really just prepared me to understand some of the struggles that students might be facing learning this.
Oh, great. So yeah, it sounds like an interesting experience where would you say it was also more of you wanting to give back, having gone through the same sort of, having been on the student side of things?
Oh yes, definitely. I would say just paying a bit of homage to some of the great tutors and lecturers that I had, because I had the pleasure and the opportunity to be taught by some of the leading people who had been in industry and were leading experts in some of their fields. So being able to give that experience to others just was an extra bonus, to be honest.
Nice. No, absolutely agree there. All right, cool. No, great stuff. So can you actually take us through a day in the life of, a Hyperion Dev coding mentor?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So I guess it really entails being able to evaluate the code of your students. And I guess typically my day would start off with, just taking a look at the messages that I've gotten from my mentees, just seeing what issues they have, via email or live chat or Discord or anything like that. And also just like evaluating their code and checking for quality, because that's really the most important thing. I take a look at my mentees' work based on 4 pillars, which would be completeness, efficiency, styling, and documentation. And just, giving them tips and tricks on how to go about improving. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to seek for improvement. It might not be, everyone starts from a different place, but we're really just trying to put, to push people to improve. And that's really what I do. And typically I'll also have some calls with my mentees. I'll have a one-on-one in-person session with them where it's just me and the mentee in a call, similar to how we're doing now, having a conversation where I can actually hear more about them, and we can actually connect on a more personal level, and I can understand what their perspective on what they're learning and what challenges they are facing.
Cool. Great. Sounds like a very fulfilling, typical type of day. So you mentioned a lot of, multiple channels in which you engage with your students. In your own experience, how are you able to manage all these channels?
It's not too difficult, actually. So the main channels would be email, live chat, and we've had some recent success with Discord. That has been really nice. And I usually, I will get very clear notifications about that from my students. And, with regards to live chat, there's also other team members who are also looking out, specifically looking out from new messages from students and making sure that an adequate response time and turnaround time is met. So there's really ample opportunity to see, a student requesting for help and to be able to then go and help them.
Okay, great. So it's all about just as long as you have the channels open, notifications are always available, and toggling through all those different platforms is not much of a mission. Hey, great. You also mentioned from time to time you get to jump on a one-on-one session with your students. Can you tell us a bit more about how the structure of this? How do these actually happen?
Yes, so basically my students have access to my calendar in the sense that within a certain time period, they're able to book calls to, pick a time suitable for them, in which they're able to basically say, hey, I'm having some trouble with some JavaScript, for example. And when we have the call in a meeting platform such as Google Meets, then I'm actually able to sit down and just have a casual conversation, and I'm actually able to share my screen, or they're able to share their screen, and we can actually go through code together and initiate in a sort of pair programming process where I can show them the tips and tricks and kind of impart on them the mindset of becoming a problem solver.
All right, cool. No, great stuff. Thank you for that answer, Tabonga. All right, so just also you've been a coding mentor for some time now. In your own experience, what would you say gives you the most satisfaction in this role as a mentor?
That is a great question. So I guess as my colleagues have mentioned before previously, the flexibility and the pleasure of teaching definitely is a plus for me. But for me, what really just amazes me is the opportunity to still learn myself. So constantly, pretty much every day, I'm literally learning something new, because each student brings their own unique perspective, their own unique learning style, their own unique experiences to how they approach certain things. And I've learned actually so much by teaching than I ever learned by just reading a lot of books and cramming. That connection with another human being just really fosters an amazing learning environment.
Great. I mean, imagine how lovely the world would be if we all just became mentors, right? Okay, cool. So yeah, just a final question from my side. Again, this is just based on your own perspective. What type of person do you think should actually consider this opportunity of being a coding mentor?
Okay, so I'll just, I guess, try to touch on the points that haven't already been mentioned and pointed out. For me, I would say one of the most critical things definitely is, at the end of the day, mindset. So as counterintuitive as it might sound, someone who is okay with failure and is willing to fail plenty of times. Because in a field like this, we honestly only learn through failure. And instead of looking failure as something like, like, no, I did something wrong and, like, this is it for me. Rather look at it as something as, this is my first attempt at learning, failure. And this is an opportunity for me to learn something new. So that kind of mindset, and just also being willing to adapt and be flexible. Because again, as I said, this is if I may make a parallel with, for example, a field like mathematics. There's multiple ways, so many different ways, and so many different tools to solve a problem. So just being able to be flexible and willing to be willing to be to experience failure and to learn from that failure.
Great. No, that was, I think that wraps it up. That really wraps it up quite nicely. And thank you so much for the insights and all the advice. Guys, that was Tavonga, the Hyperion Dev Coding Mentor. We just heard from him the fulfillment that comes with the role of being a mentor, but also the continuous opportunity to keep learning as you engage with different students who bring different perspectives at all times. So those are some of the key opportunities we have within Hyperion Dev. And if you're out there and considering this is definitely a chance to ask all the questions that have been burning, or just to seek clarity. So thank you so much again, Tavonga, George, and Pierre, for your wonderful chat and all the insights you guys have provided so far today. So I'll be handing it over back to Nico to close off the program real quick, and then right after that, I see there's some interesting questions starting to pop up right from the chat. We will get into those questions, and we will answer them right here, right now. So over to you, Nico.
Thanks, Sobane, and thank you everyone for joining this talent event. It's been great having you here, and I'm looking forward to answering some of those questions. So please ask your questions, and stick around so that you can get those answers. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Great, cool. Thanks, Nico. And so to everyone out there, our code reviewers and mentor will stick around. We also have some members from our talent department who will be here to answer some of the questions that you guys have. But I see some questions here already. I'm going to start with what exactly is the difference between a code reviewer and code mentors. So this is essentially what the distinction we try to do now with the gents here. But I'll just to touch on that a little bit more. So as a coding mentor, you actually work with us on a full-time position. You work closely with specific students. That is, you get paired up with students, and you actually have one-on-one sessions with them, check in on their progress, explain concepts, answer any kind of coding-related questions that they come up with. But on top of that, your main duty is to continuously guide them through their tasks as they progress, support them on their capstone project, but also to really be embedded into their own journey and help them, meet their educational goals. Whereas as a code reviewer, you can be a lot more flexible. I'm pretty sure you had Pierre mention it earlier on. You work based on your availability, and this is just in terms of hours per week, time that you're able to work, and you also have the option to choose the kind of projects that you want to get involved in. But most of the time, you mostly review code in a variety of contexts. This would mean you can have a code review ranging from like quick 10-minute written feedback to on some really basic HTML to like a 30-minute long hour write-up and feedback or interview with the student. Again, it's a matter of when you are available, what type of projects you are keen for at the time. So that really, that's really the kind of main difference between the code reviewers and code mentors. And then I see there's also something about how is the technical assessment done, just out of curiosity. So, the technical assessment, which is basically, it's a take-home assignment. And, this is if you have applied for any of the roles in subject, you will be sent a set of questions which you will attempt at your own time, typically is within a week or 5 working days, but the documentation would highlight how long you have to wrap that up. And basically the questions consist of a variety of coding tasks which you can attempt in any language that you're most comfortable with. So far, we have worked mainly with Python and Java, but literally anything is more than welcome. And the idea of this assessment is to literally just evaluate your problem-solving ability, your code writing skills, and more so the quality and the attention to detail and so forth. So that's how the technical assessment is done. Great. While people are still posting some of their questions, I remember I did mention Tavonga, Pia, and George are also here. So if you have anything specifically that you would like to ask them, feel free to shout out there, and then any of them will be able to actually respond to you guys. Cool. So there's another question here that I see, which is around, is a freelance code reviewer something that should be considered for, as a solid income, or just as a, small side job? I mean, ideally, it always depends, really. Like you had Pierre mentioned, you put in your own hours based on your flexibility. So this simply means you have an opportunity to earn really high based on your involvement, or you can balance it out with your other projects that you'll be involved in. And some of our code reviewers actually work with us for like 4 to 8 hours a day, sometimes even more, based on the availability of what they prefer. And then again, it's also a matter of the kind of work that is derived from our clients. If there's the high demand, we are continuously on the sourcing activity there. So it really depends on what's happening, and you as a freelance code reviewer actually can determine the kind of range scale that you want to earn. Cool. So I will carry on. I'll move on to the next question. So, we also had quite a number of questions that have come up before. So I'll go through some of them right now as well. So another interesting one, I'm sure throughout you've heard about hyper dev and co-grammar. So what really is the difference between the two? I did mention, and Nico I think also touched on it earlier, but co-grammar is really a sub-brand of hyper dev. Hyper dev uses person-focused approach with students, where each student is paired up with a mentor. Mentors review their code. Mentors review the code that the students write, provide detailed feedback. And this is through a range of different coding bootcamps that we offer at the moment. Whereas co-grammar then takes the same methodology and then sort of plugs it in as a code review service, especially service to other companies, tech companies, or even similar tech education institutions or providers. So really, that's kind of the very small distinction there. So someone asked also, when applying for jobs on LinkedIn or Indeed, I often find the requirements very intimidating, even for junior dev roles. So is there any advice for this, or how can we overcome this? I think this is directed to our code reviewers or mentors here. So George, Pierre, Tavonga, anyone wants to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I'll attempt it. So you're absolutely right. The requirements can be pretty high, and you have to remember that the requirements that companies put out usually are like their ideal candidate. So if you meet all those requirements, you're like the perfect person, and you're like almost guaranteed to get that job. Most people won't meet the requirements, and the thing is, like, HR personnel understand this. They're not. I mean, it would be ideal, but obviously they're not going to expect that every single applicant is going to have all the requirements. And if they're looking for instance, if they're looking for 5 code reviewers, then they're not. I mean, they're not going to expect that all 5 have those requirements. So the point I'm trying to make is that don't worry about having all the requirements. Worry about having some. And ideally, you'll probably have some other skills as well that's not mentioned on the requirements page, and then you can plug those as well when you do your application. So, for instance, if they say that they're looking for a Python, someone that knows a lot about Python and Java, then you can say that, okay, I only know Python, but I also know quite a bit about web development. So I do have skills to offer. So don't worry about requirements. Just go and apply and be confident.
No, absolutely. I think, yeah, that sort of sums it up quite nicely. Thanks, George, for that. So yeah, just to add more onto that, at the end of the day, it's also a strategy, to filter out people. But more so, as George has mentioned, it's all about, you might be skilled in something else, but also, especially in tech, knowing a certain framework or tech stack just sort of puts you in a better position to pick up any other ones that you might meet along the way, or that might come up as requirements. But also, the more you get your hands dirty or you do multiple projects, the better position you will be in as well. Because even if the projects you did are not necessarily in the tech framework or skills, languages that are required, but the fact that you can demonstrate your portfolio, then you're at a better position. So yeah, it's just all about navigating and remaining confident, and definitely don't shy away. Just get in there. Cool. And then there's another interesting question here around code reviews. Is the code reviews mostly on MenStep and Python? Well, not necessarily. Our clients mostly have a variety of needs, and this changes over time, literally from time to time. But so far, the main ones that we've come across are JavaScript, Express, React, Python, Ruby, SQL, Node.js, HTML, data science, and so forth. And these are just some of the main ones that have come up quite frequently. But again, it's not really limited to this. So it's really a matter of where one's main focus or expertise or competency lies. So there's quite a range of options to dive into.
Hi, Sobane, can I add on top of that?
Yeah, sure, Pierre, go for it.
Okay, so as I've worked with CodeGrammer, I worked on various projects for various different international institutions. So like you said, it doesn't really matter that there's one specific tech stack that you need to know, because I said earlier, I've worked on the Spring framework and Java. I've worked on MongoDB, the MERN stack with React and Node and Express, and we've even done some JavaScript Electron desktop apps. So you just bring what skills you have to the table, basically, and there will probably be something somewhere that you can pick up on.
Great. Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Pierre, for that addition there. So, yeah, and then another interesting question here just comes up is, I think it also speaks to the flexibility that Pierre mentioned earlier in our chat. So, say, for example, the job is fully remote, but the company is based in Cape Town and you live in Johannesburg, for example, which you need to relocate to qualify. So a simple answer is not necessarily. For example, if you're joining us as a code reviewer, you can literally be based anywhere in the world, right? Working completely remotely. But yes, as a code mentor, we have really, a large pool of our full-time code mentors based in Cape Town out of our HQ and where our campus is as well. So most, ideally, that's where the preference would be. But again, it varies from different personal circumstances. And because generally most of our academic staff is really spread across the country between Joburg and Cape Town. So, as a code reviewer, you can literally do it from anywhere. Cool. Let me see if there are any more interesting questions. Okay, cool. So I think this might be helpful as well as part of the questions that we picked up earlier around the hiring process. So what does the hiring process involve? Essentially, for code mentors, it starts with the initial application review, where this is where we look at the CVs, application answers, and so forth. And then there'll be a phone screen with selected applicants, of course, after the CV filtering. Right after that, there will be the take-home test or the technical assessment that we mentioned earlier, which you would then do it at your own time, but within a certain time period, which will be stated. And this is essentially just to assess your technical skills. And, these assessments are actually scored on a 5-point scale, and those that make it or those that are selected out of that pool move forward to the next stage. And the next stage would then be back-to-back interviews with our hiring panel or hiring committee. And, after that, obviously, the candidates that get a strong positive feedback from the entire hiring panel, obviously from, different sessions of the interviews, then we'll get a final call with the CEO. So this is just to, final sort of assessment, and then right after that, a decision would be made. So again, it's the filtering of CVs, phone screening, technical assessment, a series of interviews, and then finally you get to talk to our CEO. And then, if things look good, then it's happy days. So that's for code mentors, basically. And then for code reviewers who want to join our network for international code review opportunities, there is also, the first thing is a technical assessment. Obviously, the first thing as a code reviewer is just to make sure that you are technically sound, or at least eligible or ready to actually take up this role. And it happens alongside the phone screen. And based on the positive feedback on these stages, then you simply just get invited to join the network, and you'll be given a contract, which would outline all the necessary details there. So it's a bit more shorter or squeezed. It's not as rigorous as the code mentors. And then another question, I've applied, when should I expect to hear back? So ideally, the usual turnaround time, which our talent team usually gets back to the selected applicants, is normally between 2 to 6 weeks, usually with an invitation to set up a phone screen or complete a technical assessment. So that's generally like the time frame or when you can expect to hear back. Yeah, and then probably another interesting one, someone is asking, how many people do we have? How many staff members do we have, or team members we have? So we currently have a team of over 50 people. Then this ranges from the education department, product department, marketing, admissions department, finance, talent, and people ops. So it's really just across different divisions, but yeah, right above, just over 50. Cool. And then there's also a question around how many code reviewers do you have? So basically, this is a network of freelance code reviewers, and we have it actually has, the network itself has, you know, hundreds of technical experts, and with different skill sets, as we mentioned earlier. There's quite a range of skill sets and frameworks that we specialize or we work in. And what happens is, as a code reviewer, as a freelance code reviewer, you then indicate or specify the skill sets that you are comfortable in, or the ones that you prefer working in. And when those particular demand, when the particular demand for those skill sets come up as part of the code review request, then you get to take up the opportunity that fits your preference and schedule. But there is actually a very large network of freelance code reviewers that get utilized from time to time, depending on the demands at any given point in time. Yeah, and then another interesting question, I think, which is also might be relevant for some of our viewers tonight, is can you sponsor visas? I guess this is directly mainly for international, people who are looking at opportunities with Hyperion Dev. Well, not necessarily sponsor visas per se, but we are definitely able to assist, especially with the process, the application process. So, any supporting documentation or whatever advice that our talent team would be able to provide. And this would be mainly for the full-time employees. But yeah, the kind of support that one would need as soon as they get an opportunity or the offer, then we definitely are able to do that. But we don't actually directly sponsor visas. Yeah, and then in terms of, another interesting question is what are working hours like? So I'll speak mainly around the code reviewers. As we mentioned earlier, we have clients all over the world, ideally. So this is not really strict. We are not really, limited to a specific time zone as such. There's opportunities from different time zones, ideally. And again, it's all a matter of when the code reviewers are available, night, morning, or evening, whatever the case. So really, working hours are pretty flexible, and as a code reviewer, you are actually able to make up these hours as you see fit, or whatever works best for you based on your typical daily rhythms. Oh yeah, another interesting one is someone is asking about a programming lecturer role versus a coding mentor role. So you probably are aware right now that we actually have on-site programs that we are running in Joburg and Cape Town at our campuses. So the programming lecturer role is specifically for that, where a lecturer would typically, just like a traditional institution, have a class of between 10 and 20 students and give them lecturers on a day-to-day basis. Whereas you heard from Tavonga, a mentor gets paired up with, a range of different students who are doing their coding bootcamps online, and they get to interact purely virtually. So no, they are completely different roles. All right. I believe that's pretty much. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the kind of burning questions that we see here feed. So thank you so much for joining us today, guys. It was really amazing to chat to you and get the opportunity to actually share what we do at Hyperion Dev, and also speak to some of our code reviewers and code mentors, express their own experiences. But as you heard, there's a lot more opportunities within Apparent Dev. And if you really are keen, you think this is a good opportunity for you, definitely check us out. Head to our website, apparentdev.com/jobs, and join our team. And yeah, let's make the world a better place and provide quality code. So thank you so much to the Apparent team for putting this together. And to everyone else, have a good evening.